Hey guys, today I want to show you fragrances for two very different personalities, and I think they are not just different, they're opposite. I'm talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and I was inspired by the huge defamation case that is going on at the moment, and probably you know about that because the YouTube is full of those videos and I'm watching them live. And while watching that, one of the court days, I'm watching them almost every day because it's very interesting. This idea came to my mind, and I thought what kind of fragrances I would imagine on Johnny Depp and on Amber Heard that will suit their personalities, because I think they are completely opposite. For me, they are like the fire and the ice. And it wasn't that difficult to find fragrances for Johnny Depp. Like, I have lots of them in my collection, like with that scent profile. However, it was quite challenging for me to find fragrances for Amber Heard because I watched her during this defamation case and her witness testimony and her performance. I watched her interviews, I watched her in the movie with Johnny Depp in this Rom Diaries, where I think he fell in love with her, according to what he said. And all that, of course, it's very subjective, but it formed some sort of opinion about what kind of person is Amber Heard. And I realized that I see her, first of all, as a very beautiful woman. She is stunning, especially there in the Rom Diary. If you haven't watched that movie, I highly suggest you to watch it. Yes, she's very beautiful, but at the same time, she's quite cold. She keeps distance. She's very closed. At the same time, she has many faces. Well, it's obvious. She's an actress. She's very ambitious, but at the same time, very self-concentrated, self-interested. She's quite businesslike. She is quite egoistic, I would say. Like, she has some sort of narcissism. She's tough-minded. She's very purposeful at the same time. And when I put all this together, the picture that I have in my mind is a picture of a very cold, ice cold, white, prickly flower. It is beautiful, but it's very cold, angry, and prickly. I don't have that many fragrances with that scent profile in my collection. I'm not a fan of Amber Heard, neither her as an actress nor as a personality, as a person. That's why it was quite difficult and challenging for me to find the fragrances with that scent profile. However, I managed to do that. And the first fragrance that I think would suit Amber Heard would be Cartier Carat. Because this fragrance, it gives me the associations with melted snow, like melted ice. This fragrance is not about the white flowers only, because the brand made an attempt to reflect in the fragrance the facets of diamond and how it plays, how the light plays in those facets, and the fraction, I would say, of the light. That's why they created the fragrance with many different flowers. It has tulips, it has hyacinth, it has mimosa, I believe. It has also some green notes, definitely. So it has all the, rainbow colors to reflect the, the light, how it plays in the facets of diamond. But still, this fragrance is very cold. It's cold because diamond is cold, because diamond it gives associations with the ice. It doesn't seem to me like this fragrance has red, purple, yellow, green. No, it smells to me like a very cold, melted ice water filled with some floral, very abstract floral accord. I'm not a big fan of this fragrance. I don't use it, and most probably I'll get rid of this fragrance because there is something that bothers me. I believe that's a musk, the type of musk that Cartier used here. Another fragrance that I think would perfectly suit Amber Heard, and that one is the fragrance that I really like and I use I have a very small size bottle. This is Cartier again, and this is Baiser Vole. And this fragrance is about very cold, even blue, I would say, lily. But the lily here is stunning. It's really beautiful. This lily is not the typical lily. It's not a type of head-inducing type of lily. No, it's aquarelle. It's pastel type of lily, and it's mixed with lots of green notes. But together, for me, this fragrance smells like blue, but not blue like the marine blue, but like floral blue. It gives me the associations with the blue, like white, snowy white, bluish flower lily. It is cold. It is ice cold to me. It is very fresh at the same time, and it's really beautiful. And in terms of performance also, it's quite long lasting, and I believe this fragrance was already discontinued, and I missed my chance to buy the full bottle, unfortunately. The next fragrance that I think will perfectly suit the personality of Amber Heard is Empressa by Penhaligon, because it smells to me like a prickly white rose. Why prickly? Because of patchouli, and patchouli here is really prickly. And this is, I think, the closest clone of Coco Mademoiselle by Chanel, and this is not the fragrance that I like, just because of that prickly patchouli vibe that I can smell it in Coco Mademoiselle. And you know, I got rid of all, you know, inspired fragrances that I had in my collection, just because it's not my profile, it's not my type of chypre. This is a chypre also, and the flower here, the rose here, is definitely white. It's not even pink for me. It has some citruses. I think it has some fruity aspect as well, but I don't smell it. It's quite angry, it's quite cold for me. That's why I don't use it, and I'm not going to buy a full bottle. I got this as a present in a set. Another fragrance that I think will emphasize and reflect the business-like aspect of Amber Heard would be Chloe Nomade. I love this fragrance and I use it. As you see, this is a floral fruity chypre again. This is another chypre in today's list, because I think the chypre is the definitely the type of fragrance that I can see on Amber Heard. But they should not be the dark chypres, like, or old school type of chypres. There should definitely light and contemporary type of chypres, and this is one of them. This is very light, and though it has some oak moss and patchouli on the base, for me this fragrance is still very clean, crisp, white, very cold, and business-like. I can imagine this fragrance, it would be perfect for the office, because it gives you the vibes of that business lady, and quite dominant, I would say, at the same time. Though it has a lot of fruity notes, because it has some Mirabelle, like the plum note. I think it has some peach note, some citruses. At the same time, it has the rose here, I think, some white flowers, and that oak moss and patchouli make this fragrance very dominant again. It gives the spine to this fragrance, definitely. And it's not for everyone, believe me. This is not a typical designer fragrance for me. It's quite cold, and again, when I wear this one, I normally wear it with a white shirt, with a formal white shirt, because I think this is a perfect fragrance for formal white shirt. And it is not warm at all. It doesn't have any sweetness at all. That's why I can see this fragrance on her, on Amber Heard. And the last fragrance for her would be Amouage Reflection, because I think, again, as you may see from the bottle, this is a mirror, and this is very cold, and this is like an ice, and for me this is white flowers that are floating on the top of the very cold ice, like ice cold water in a lake, the most probably. This fragrance is about freesia, magnolia, and when I think about these flowers, for me, again, they are on the surface of the water, definitely. And this water is really, really cold. This is how I see this fragrance. Very fresh. It has zero sweetness again for me. I love it. It's beautiful. It really suits the climate I live in. However, I don't wear it a lot. And now let's talk about the fragrances for Johnny Depp. And when we say fragrance and Johnny Depp, the first thing that comes to our mind is Dior Sauvage, of course. But for some reason, I don't associate Johnny Depp with Dior Sauvage. Not because Dior Sauvage is not beautiful enough, not sexy enough. No, don't get me wrong. I love that fragrance. It's really attractive. It's really sexy. And I even bought the fragrance inspired by Dior Sauvage. I bought the Prada Luna Rosa Carbon for my husband as a birthday present many years ago when Dior Sauvage was very popular. I bought it because at that time my husband wasn't ready for Dior Sauvage et de Parfum. It was too loud for him, too potent. I knew that I would scare him with that fragrance. That's why I decided to go for something more subtle that he appreciated a lot, by the way, and he used a lot. He has used more than half of the bottle. Probably nowadays, after many years, I believe that my husband would be ready already for Dior Sauvage. It's not that popular anymore. You don't smell it from everyone, and I think that's the best time when you should use the fragrance, or you should wear the fragrance to smell more unique, I would say. And again, I love this fragrance, but for some reason I don't associate Dior Sauvage with Johnny Depp, probably because Dior Sauvage for me is not a bad boy fragrance. But for Johnny Depp, I think the best fragrance profile that would suit his personality is the bad boy fragrances. And when we say bad boy, we mean someone who breaks the rules, someone who drinks booze, and someone who plays in the rock band. I think this is the image of a bad boy that again, this is how I see Johnny Depp when I think about him. And the fragrances that I will show you, the next 5 ones, will be totally for that type of person. And the very first one is the fragrance that literally has the name of bad boy. And this is from Carolina Herrera. This is a Bad Boy Le Parfum. I'm not a big fan of the bottle. It's a bit too much for me, but it's fine anyway. The spray is really good, and as I said, this is not a classical Bad Boy. This is not an old version. This is a new one from 2021. This is a Bad Boy Le Parfum, and I love this fragrance. It has a note of cannabis, first of all, and I think it's also, very obvious why this fragrance will suit Johnny Depp. It has lots of freshness because of the grapefruit. It has a grapefruit accord on the top that adds, some tartness to this fragrance. But it also has some sweetness underneath. It has a bit of a leather in the base. It has some vetiver that I also like, because I love vetiver fragrances. But at the same time, it has some sweetness. It definitely does. But it's not a gourmand type of sweetness. It is very pleasant type of sweetness. This fragrance reminds me a lot another fragrance that is from the Niche brand, from Nichanet. It reminds me a lot of Caragos. And I liked Caragos a lot, though it has a very controversial and polarizing feedbacks on the Fragrantica. People say it has a very annoying dry down. Again, I smelled it. I smelled Caragos in Istanbul. When I was in Istanbul recently, I went to the Nichanet's boutique and I managed to try it, and I loved Caragos. And this fragrance is very similar to that Niche fragrance, a very polarizing one, though this is a designer fragrance. So I want to say that how unique this is, and it really is very different from any other release of designer releases that I've smelled during last year and this year. So this is a fragrance that definitely deserves attention, and somehow it's underrated from my point of view. So if you like cargos and if you want something very similar without that probably for someone annoying background note on the dry down, definitely pay attention to this hidden gem, the Bad Boy Le Parfum from 2021. When we say Johnny Depp, of course the first image we get, the very popular, very loved by everyone image of the pirate, image of the Jack Sparrow comes to our mind, and of course we're thinking about the fragrance for that character, for a pirate, for a Jack Sparrow. And the best pirate fragrance that exists on the market, from my point of view, I think, is a fragrance from John Varvatos, and this is Dark Rebel. And this is everything that a pirate would love and what the bad boy would love. It's rum, it's tobacco, it's leather, it's woody notes, so it's sweet, it has some sugar as well. Really, really sexy, attractive pirate, a very dynamic one, a very young one at the same time. This is one of the favorite fragrances of my husband, and he fell in love with this fragrance from the very first sniff when I bought it blindly, I believe 1 or 2 years ago. So really good quality. The only thing that I would add to this fragrance is the longevity. This is the only thing that this fragrance needs. Unfortunately, it doesn't last long. You need to refresh. But anyway, you know, it lasts for about 3, 4 to 5 hours, especially on the clothes. So if it's enough for you, if it's not a problem, let's say for me it's not, because again, within that 4 to 5 hours I can smell all the stages of the opening of this fragrance, all the beauty of this fragrance. I can appreciate it. If it's enough for you also, then pay attention to this fragrance. If you are looking for the bad boy pirate-like fragrance, the Dark Rebel from John Varvatos is a perfect choice. Another fragrance will be for all the bad boys who love to drink whiskey, and this is a Baraonda from Nasomato. And this is a pure single malt whiskey, I would say, but sweetened, beautified with the addition of the very, very sweet sugary rose. This is a very realistic whiskey smell, like if you're smelling it from the bottle. However, this is not, though it's very realistic, this is not, it doesn't smell like if you have poured whiskey on yourself, or if you have drunk whiskey, it won't smell like attractive. This one is very sexy and attractive because this is a perfumery interpretation of the whiskey, very, as I said, beautified one, refined one. It smells like a perfume, not like a booze. It's interesting, I bought this fragrance for my husband 3 years ago, and at that time, for some reason, he didn't appreciate this fragrance fully, though he was very much into whiskey. He was collecting whiskey. It was very interesting. I was collecting my own bottles of fragrances. He was collecting his own bottles of whiskey. Again, he didn't see and feel all the beauty of this fragrance, though now, after 2 years, or 2.5, probably 3 years, when he sprayed this fragrance, he fell in love with this fragrance. And even me, when I smelled it from him, first of all, I didn't recognize it. It has changed. And if before all I could smell was booze and whiskey and a very first plan, now I can smell more rose in this fragrance together with whiskey. And I think this emphasized rose accord, it really makes this fragrance to shine. It really beautifies it. It really makes it more perfume-like rather than booze-like, I would say. So my husband compared this fragrance to whiskey, and he said that with time as like a whiskey, this fragrance gets better. How many times did I say the word whiskey? Come on. Okay, so if you like whiskey, try Baraonda. The next fragrance will be also quite boozy, and this is unfortunately discontinued fragrance, but it is really beautiful, and I highly suggest you, if you can find it and try it. This is Elie Saab Cuir Bourbon, and yes, it's boozy again, but this is not just a booze, this is booze plus leather, and leather here is very masculine and sexy. It's mixed with saffron. It has lots of vanilla, Bourbon vanilla, but it's definitely boozy fragrance. It definitely has alcohol aspect to it, very attractive. It's very sweet. This fragrance is really, really sweet. It is on the gourmand side. If you want to smell like a leather soaked in a booze and vanilla and smoke, this is the one. This is what you need. It has a beast mode performance. You can smell it from the distance, you know, it has an enormous sillage. It's a perfect fragrance for a night out, to go to the restaurant, to go to the pub. And as I said, it's a very refined fragrance, so I can see it as well as a pub fragrance, but also you can wear it with a formal suit, with a tuxedo if you go to the restaurant night, to the more formal restaurants, I would say. So it's amazing quality, and if you can find this fragrance, I do recommend you to do so. My husband loves it. And the last but not least for today is the most unique and the most controversial fragrance. And people say sometimes that it's not wearable, but come on, you see, my husband wears it and wears it a lot, and he even asked me to buy a backup bottle for him because it is so sexy. I think this is the sexiest fragrance for a bad boy, for the boy who plays guitar in a rock band, for someone who is really attractive but he doesn't care just because he's smart enough, you know, for someone who is at the same time, yeah, he is a rebellious soul, he's the one who breaks the rule, but he's a very kind person at the same time. He is a cowboy, you know, he is a cowboy, and this fragrance is for the sexiest ever cowboy that existed in this planet and in this world. So I love this fragrance as well as my husband does, because this is an amazing creation of Alberto Morillas. I think this is one of the best fragrances he ever created. This is a niche, a pure niche in the designer brand. But if you are not prepared, if you are not into fragrances, if you are not a hugest fan of leather, animalic leather fragrances, don't even try. Don't even try. Though my husband is not that much into animalic and, I don't know, in the challenging fragrances, but from the first sniff he fell in love with this fragrance. Yes, it has that a bit of the barnyard animalic aspect, but the dosage of that is so perfectly done and measured here that it only makes this fragrance even more beautiful, and it emphasizes the leather accord, the vetiver accord here, the cypress, the patchouli that it has here. So amazing fragrance, and I totally can see it on Johnny Depp. It will suit him perfectly. So it has a monstrous performance, by the way. It lasts long, it is very loud, it's very potent, so don't overspray definitely. And this is not a fragrance for every day. You definitely need to have a mood for this fragrance to, you know, extend and expand your olfactive experience. I highly suggest you to try if you see it in the store. Though I believe this fragrance was discontinued already. Yeah, I'm afraid it is. So you can just try to buy a decant. That's it for today. My today's video was only for the entertaining purposes. So whatever I said, just, you know, perceive it with a pinch of salt. Because it's very, very subjective, and in general there is nothing more subjective than the fragrances, you know. I would be happy to know to know your opinion. What do you think? are the best fragrances that would suit the personality of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Write your comments, write your thoughts. I'll be happy to read them. So thanks again for watching me. I want to wish you a great weekend full of positive emotions, and I hope to see you in my next video next week. See you guys, bye.